Hassan, how are you?
Hey, Yaman, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I see Ellie in the crowd. If you could please come up, Ellie, I would appreciate that. About Tesla, what's the latest on the rollout?
Well, I've got 12.5.4 on my car yesterday, among many other FSD customers. So I'm really excited about that. It's been a long time coming, and it's going pretty well. Actually, there are three different versions I'm looking at right now, rolling out this week. So all three are important for FSD. So all attention is, of course, on this latest one, 12.5.4, which has reached about 8% of the US fleet, US and Canada fleet already. So it's went out to about 9%, and most have already installed it. So that's the big thing. It's not just us, it's also the hands-free driving with sunglasses, which I'm really excited about. So I tried it this morning, works well. I had 3 rides, no intervention, no disengagement, not a single nag. So it was just hands-free all the way, not touching the wheel. I did press the accelerator once or twice to speed it up as usual, but other than that, no intervention at all. And I didn't try to push it to the limit, like I didn't look at the at my phone or anything. So, but just mostly looked outside. Also looked at the screen occasionally. So no nags at all. That's pretty amazing. I did try the actually a smart summon just for a little bit. Just I didn't have much time to play with it. I'm still recovering from COVID, so I'm not driving much these days. But I did try it just to make sure it works, and it's yeah, it's pretty good. So I'll need to spend some more time playing with it. Now, let me mention the other two versions. They don't get that much attention these days, but they are also very important. So version 12.5.2.1 has been rolling out since last week. So it's been, and it's went pretty wide. So it's all has already reached 18% of the fleet. So that's a pretty big rollout. So 18%, and many people trying 12.5 for the first time. So that's really good news. And then the other version worth mentioning is not really FSD, but there is a version rolling out to Cybertruck. It's version 2024.27.25. And it went to majority of the fleet already. So it's more than, I didn't check the latest numbers, but it's already more than 60% of the Cybertruck fleet. And while it doesn't have FSD, it does bring Vision Auto Park to all Cybertrucks. So that's a big deal. It's a step in the FSD direction, one of the FSD features actually. So that's where we stand. And lastly, I wanted to mention you, since you asked how many cars have now received 12.5, any version of 12.5. I checked the numbers, and it looks like 1/3 of the fleet in the US and Canada is already on 12.5, any flavor of it.
Okay, great. So 1/3 of the fleet in North America has actually smart summon.
Yep.
And also nag-free, steering wheel nag-free version.
So it's nag-free. Let's see, 12. Yeah, I think all of them should be nag-free, but the sunglasses is only the latest one. 12.5.4 is the one that has support for sunglasses.
Okay, thank you very much. Hustletown, how is the audio on the other side?
the real Aztec would say that it's not solid because it has to travel through a medium and a vacuum. But anyway, the sound is great.
Is he joking? Okay. Yeah,
He's
there's no
absolutely
joking. In the
joking.
first few minutes, please don't joke. Thank you very much. Ellie, did you see the recent comments by Putin a few minutes ago?
I did not. What happened there?
Let me read a couple of these comments. Um, he mentioned nuclear weapons. Okay. So this is could be a level of escalation, and I don't yet see an impact of this. So he says we reserve the right to use nuclear weapons in case of aggression against Russia and Belarus. Proposed significant updates to Russia's nuclear strategy, citing the rapidly evolving global military political situation. These changes reflect the Kremlin's concerns about increasing tensions and shifting alliances in international security. Yeah. So something to keep in mind. I don't think this is a high probability event by any stretch of imagination, but you know, the first time I've heard it mentioned. So maybe I'm wrong. But if there's anybody in the audience who is an expert in geopolitics, you're welcome to request a speech. Just to repeat, Putin says we reserve the right to use nuclear weapons in case of aggression against Russia, including if the enemy poses a critical threat to our sovereignty with conventional weapons. This came out about 5 minutes ago. Ellie, what's the latest from the Middle East?
Yeah, so today for the first time since maybe, I don't know, half a year. Yeah, probably half a year since last time. Well, today anyway, what I'm about to say, I'm sorry, I'm just about to go out and I'm a bit distracted. But today I went out with my dog, and for the first time in 6 months, I saw interception above my head. So basically, they extended the range. So that means that the Iron Dome need to operate in the center. I live in the center, in the middle, like near Tel Aviv. So that means that the threat is more, real. And the government responded by, if you keep shooting to the center, to the middle of, the center of Israel, we will have to tolerate. We'll have to respond more aggressively and stuff. So it's the same. It's always the same. It goes up a notch and then it goes down a notch. But every time they shoot towards Tel Aviv, you can expect more. Um, you know, Whatever. You saw what happened in the last few months.
Okay, so you don't see a material escalation in geopolitical risk from the Middle East. Is that fair summary?
Yeah, still the same numbers I gave you like a month ago. It's all the same. It's a bit more. It's a bit more aggressive from both sides, but it won't go to a full-fledged war. Still same odds that I gave you.
Okay, thank you very much. JC, how are you?
Hey, Yaman, how you doing? I'm doing great, bud.
Good. I'm doing well too. It's getting a little cloudy over here, but other than that, full time.
Yeah, I got. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I got 12. Well, first of all, Ellie, stay safe. My heart goes out to you and your family, and hopefully, this can all, yeah, yeah, right. Like I'm gonna say, can get resolved. Like really, come on. Um, so the whole situation. I'm so sorry, Ellie. But just know that we're with you. I mean, when you said that, I mean, Yaman, could you imagine that if you or I said, like, yeah, I walked outside my house in Austin and I saw, Mexico or Cuba um, shoot missiles, but they caught them. So we're back to normal now. We'd be like, holy moly, right? What would we do in this country? We'd go
Yeah.
absolutely ape shit. I'm sorry. We'd go nuts. And Ellie's just like, well, they caught it. So, we don't think it's going to escalate beyond where it is now. I mean, if the typical American walked outside with their dog and saw a missile getting intercepted routinely above them, yeah. Anyway, so I got 12, 5, 4.
Before that, JC, what do you think about the comments by Putin?
Yeah, so I'm going to be very careful here, Yaman, because my son is on a nuclear submarine as we speak. So I have some that I'm. So I got 12.5.4 yesterday, Yaman, as well as actually Smart Summon. I'm not trying to dodge your question, yeah, but I have to be. You have to I have to be very extra careful when I talk about nuclear armaments. So
Okay. Do you take it seriously?
oh yeah, oh yeah,
Or do you
oh
take
yeah,
his comments seriously? Does that worry you?
oh yeah, yeah. It worries me. It worries me a lot. He's Putin never says anything that he doesn't do. I think that's one of the issues that we have in the United States because we're so used to hearing stuff come out of our politicians' mouths and discounting it, and saying, well, yeah, they're saying that to appease their base, but they're never really going to do it. And Congressman that'll, and so we're so used to that, we're jaded to it. You go and like if Xi Jinping says something, he's gonna do it. If Vladimir Putin says something, he's gonna do it. Most of these other leaders, and again, I'm not trying to justify it at all because it's totally different. Um, but I, I mean the fact that we don't take that seriously is yeah, it's I do not discount him saying that he would use nuclear weapons whatsoever. I can tell you that the United States government, or at least the part I know about very personally, it takes it very seriously. So yeah, that's not good to hear. So when you mentioned that, I was like, because I was actually on a phone
Okay.
call just about 40 minutes ago.
Thank you
about
very
that.
much.
Yep.
Hustle Town.
Yeah, I served on a fast attack submarine. We got those things circling in various different parts of the ocean for a reason, and they definitely take it very serious when you're reading off the coast of Country Orange, whatever that may be. You you have to take everything with a grain of salt, but that threat is very very real. And JC, prayers goes out to you, to your boy on that boat, because I am not going back, and we got to do whatever we got to do to ease these conflicts. We need to quell this stuff. We need to smash it right now because it could get very dangerous if they accidentally launch a nuke, and then we've got a SSB and just turning things
Yeah.
into glass parking lots over there.
Yeah. H Town, the only solace I have, and you know this because you were like my son, is at least my name will carry on. Everybody else on this spaces, your name will go away. My son will be one of the 100 people that'll be forced to repopulate the earth. It's all said.
Okay, thank
It
you.
is the safest place.
Okay, guys. Omar, welcome.
Hey,
Did you see comments by Putin a few minutes ago?
no, I was on the phone with somebody. I didn't hear what Putin said.
He's saying that they reserve the right to use nuclear weapons in case of aggression towards Russia or Belarus.
Yeah, well, he said things like that before.
So you don't assign much of a probability here of it happening. It doesn't worry you at all.
Yeah, I think Putin knows that if he used a nuclear weapon, then it could be the end of humanity pretty quickly. So if Russia used a nuclear weapon, the US would probably launch a retaliatory nuclear weapon potentially, and then if they didn't do a good job, Russia could potentially retaliate, and then next thing you know, the whole world's blown up. So, Putin's been around for a long time. He's a Cold War guy. He understands mutually assured destruction pretty well. Now, if you're fighting a war with somebody and you have nuclear weapons, every once in a while, you probably want to wave that stick around. But you probably don't necessarily want to use it, as it's going to bring international condemnation of the highest order, if not a retaliatory attack.
Thank you. Bull 2035.
Yeah, this is not surprising at all. I watch Russian TV, at least clips from Russian TV. They've been talking about this for a couple years. Those are propaganda machines for Putin. And the Russian policy has long been that if the Russian state is threatened as a state, they can use nuclear weaponry. And the last couple of years, they've been saying, well, we've been attacked, we'll use it. And Putin said this too. So this is nothing new.
Okay. And the financial markets don't assign much of a probability either. Let's check the oil prices real quick. Usually, oil prices jump on any sort of geopolitical risk, a credible geopolitical risk. So let's see. Oil is down below $70 per barrel, WTI. And the reason for that is Equinor shutters Gulf oil platform on hurricane watch as oil prices dip. That's not a reason. That would be the opposite. Omar, what do you make of these oil prices continue to decline? I was watching a CNBC interview before I jumped on here, and the analysts were talking about how hedge funds and other financial institutions are positioned heavily on the short side for oil prices, and this is happening obviously despite elevated geopolitical risk in the Middle East, Russia-Ukraine conflict, wars like nuclear weapons being thrown around, and despite all of that, oil prices continue downward.
Yeah, I mean, oil is so pervasively used throughout the world that it's almost just like a proxy for GDP in a sense. Like the global demand for oil is going to be a function of GDP essentially. So as you've seen a slowing economy in China and a weakening labor market in the US, and people sort of project what that could do to oil demand in the future, they go, okay, well, less people are probably going to want oil, the price will probably go down, and then they trade accordingly. And of course, for the first time, there's a real alternative to buying oil for personal transportation. And that's having some effect. It's not, I think, the majority of the price action we're seeing, but it is also having some effect and will continue to have an effect over time. I think someone did a calculation, Bloomberg or something, of how many barrels of oil are being displaced by EV demand. So oil prices look like they're probably continuing downward for some time until we see economic growth really pick up.
Okay. Oil prices continue downward. I mean, we're already at a level where many of the shale producers are not profitable below $70 per barrel.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And that's going to have big effects on the market, on suppliers. But this could be just the beginning.
Town, are you close to, or JC, are you guys close to oil producers in Texas at all?
I imagine Dow Chemicals like 60 miles away from where we're at. So, I mean, they're here. They're here.
Do you agree that many of the oil producers in Texas are not profitable below $70 per barrel? I mean, it definitely takes out the deep shale oil deep sea oil producers, also Canadian sand oil producers, and many others as well. But really, the key here is shale producers because they seem to be the swing production.
I wish I knew more about it. I really couldn't tell you.
Okay, that's okay. JC, what do you think? All right, so it doesn't look like we have any oil experts in this space. That's okay. This topic is important because obviously is a huge part of inflation numbers, and inflation is an input into federal funds rate, which is an input into discount rates for all assets. So it's an important topic. We should probably build the capability to understand it better in this space. Edward, how are you?
Pretty good. I'm on the road. I hope you can hear me all right and there's no static. I'm trying to get a new headset for you guys, just for this space. Come on.
Yes, I highly recommend people get the Apple Pod Pro. Seems to work best. Edward, did you get your FSD?
No, I'm never getting it, apparently. So,
Well, I'm sorry to hear. What about Autopark on your Cybertruck? Did you get that?
yes, we just got that yesterday, actually. So I haven't had
How
a
is it?
time to check it out. I have not even had a chance.
Oh, come on, Edward! You can't say that.
No
You can't,
chance.
listen, you can't complain here that you don't have FSD, and then once you get something, you're like waiting 24 hours to try it. What are you talking? You need to be Edward.
On FSD.
Edward,
Come
hold
on, give me a break a little bit.
Hold on. I'm gonna put you on mute because your connection is really bad. But let's just make sure that if you get a goodie from the company, you go out and try it that minute, even if it's 4 a.m. Get out there, try it, tweet about it, tell the AI team how much you love them, that you would rather not sleep for 3 days straight than not have FSD, and then maybe they'll add you to the list. Omar, any other tips for those waiting on the FSD list?
Yeah. When the Tesla team sends me an update at 2 a.m., I put on my slippers and put on my jacket and I go out and I test it. And that's why they send me the update. And then I tweet about it and I post a video about it so other people can see what it does. And
exactly. And if you want to be, so Omar is already there, okay? If you want to get it, just like Omar, you have to do something more. You have to be 10x better, which means you don't put on slippers. You literally bounce out of your bed and run out. It doesn't matter if you're wearing clothes, just go out there, get in your car, test it, and live stream. Okay, now that we have that straight, I need everyone to go to the top of your screens and click the like button for this episode on YouTube. Even if you want to watch it, even if you want to listen to it on X, which is fine. You know, people have their preferences on which platform they want to consume content. That's totally fine. But I really need you to go up there, click on that link, and click the like button. So we're going to take a 30-second break to do that. While you do that, a quick shout out to our sponsors. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. And because you're part of the Tesla Live community, Joa is hooking you up. Use code TSLA Live for a special discount. And Pay More. Pay More buys, sells, trades, and recycles electronics because Pay More believes the best technology doesn't have to come at the cost of our planet or your wallet. Join the Pay More revolution. Visit one of their 100 stores near you. All right. We covered geopolitics, Putin's recent comments. There are other things we're going to talk about today. But let's discuss FSD first. Omar, have you tried actually smart summon more in the last 24 hours? Any further insights that you can share with us?
Well, it's just incredible, frankly. It really works. You can straight up be at a Whole Foods, Costco, busy parking lot, call your car to you and it'll drive to you and pull over and you can get in. I haven't found a situation yet that it hasn't handled correctly. So it's a pretty impressive showing by the team for sure.
And about Tesla, before you join, about Tesla gave us an update on how the rollout's going. It appears that approximately one third of the North America fleet, US and Canada, let's say, US and Canada fleet has actually smart summon and steering wheel nag free FSD, which is great. So by the time we get to 1010, hopefully most of the fleet will have these updates. About Tesla?
So just to clarify, so one third of the fleet have version 12.5. So basically they have NAC free FSD. It's not actually Smart Summon is just only 8% right now.
Okay, thank you very much for correcting me. One third of the US and Canada fleet has steering wheel free, nag free FSD, and 8% of the fleet has actually smart summon. Thank you. Drew Soul in YouTube live chat reminds me, Goldman Sachs says buy call options before the 1010 robotaxi event. Goldman Sachs says buy call options before the 1010 robotaxi event. This is a very unusual call, no pun intended. Omar, what do you make of this? Goldman Sachs telling people to buy call options on Tesla stock.
Well, it might not be a bad idea.
Okay. That's it. I thought you'd be more excited about it.
I mean, I don't know if this is good advice or not. We'll see. It could be a buy the rumor, sell the news, but that's what everybody's expecting. So the market can often surprise people. I mean, this is really something where in the past, you've had extraordinary movements in Tesla, and call option buyers have benefited immensely in ways that have changed their life. And Elon says this is going to be the most impactful product unveil for Tesla since the Model 3. So I'm really excited to see what they have. I don't know if the market will like it or not, but I don't really care if the market likes it or not. I'm not doing any call option plays myself other than the calls I already have. I'm more just interested in seeing the product and their vision for autonomy.
Okay, I see we have Bradford in the listener mode. He's welcome to come up and share his views on what Goldman Sachs is telling people to do. And that's an interesting note. Drew also says he's expecting strong delivery numbers. Drew Soul says he's expecting strong delivery numbers, and he calls a double catalyst event. So, has anyone read that Goldman Sachs note? Edward?
No, I didn't read the note, but I agree with that concept of the double hit. That could push the stock up.
Are you buying call options on the recommendation of Goldman Sachs?
No, just buying shares. I bought 3 shares today. I'm buying 3 shares to 5 shares a week every week for the foreseeable future, 1 to 2 years plus.
Yoda, are you buying call options on the recommendation of Goldman Sachs?
I don't do options. I just buy.
Okay, if there's anyone in the audience who has read the Goldman Sachs note recommending people buy call options, or if you're on YouTube live chat and you have read it, you have further details, any sort of quotes you can share from the report, please leave it in the live chat, and you can access the live chat through the link at the top of your screens. And thank you very much. I really appreciate when people respond to my call to action about liking the video. This video is now liked by 63 people. So we're going for a record. The record is 200. We're half hour into it. I think we can get to more than 200 today. So if you're in the audience, please make it a habit to go up to the top of our screens, click the live YouTube link, and hit the like button. All right, let's see if Bradford wants to come up and comment on this. Yoda, do you have any deliveries expectation? What do you think of this Goldman Sachs note?
I haven't read the note, but I think it's gonna be a great Q3 with what China's pumping out there. They're doing a car every 30 seconds, I think. But yeah, what 469 sounds like a good number.
Bradford, welcome. How are you?
Good. So we're talking about the
Can you guys hear Bradford?
It disappeared.
Yeah, Bradford, your sound quality is a low. Would you be able to get to a better location? Yoda.
No, I just want to share that like Ass was pretty good last night. First time, Mrs. Yoda said it gave her goosebumps, and this is a paradigm shift.
Okay, thank you, Yoda. We're going to get back to that. Bradford, what do you think about Goldman Sachs' note telling people to buy call options before the 10/10 event?
So we're talking about Vampire Squid, Goldman Sachs, is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
I just never found Goldman to be very credible. I feel like in my experience with them over the years, and I've been an investment advisor for 19 years, is like I feel like sometimes when they kick out a note, it's at like you want to do the opposite. I feel like they take advantage of their clients. That's just my feeling. I don't have a ton to back it up. It's just anecdotal experience. I think now, if I were like forced to trade call options right now, I would be on the side of lightening up. I think FOMO is kicking in for people. Why wasn't Goldman saying to buy call options at 200? I mean, Elon buying compute and all these advancements, they were already in place when the stock was 200. That'd been a better time to buy call options than now.
What do you think about? I mean, those are great points, and it's actually documented. Some of these investment banks, at least around the Great Recession, they were playing against their clients' positions. I don't know if that still goes on today, but sometimes these incentive structures persist. Bradford, what do you think about the possible stock price action in the next couple of weeks heading into the 10/10 event? And also, how do you think it's going to react to the 10/10 event?
Yeah, I don't think the move we've seen recently is necessarily the run up to 1010. I do think there's excitement around the FSD releases. But I'd be surprised if there wasn't another move toward 1010. That's just my thought on it. Um, I I do think bulls have been buying. I'm curious to see if institutional ownership has continued to increase. But my thoughts about institutional ownership is until my firm cracked 100 million in stocks and ETFs, we weren't considered institutional. But as soon as we cracked that dollar amount, suddenly we're considered institutional. We have to file a form 13F. Now we have more shares in Tesla than Gerber Kawasaki does, with 1/6 of the total assets. Um, So I'm a little skeptical of people saying, well, institutions are buying. I think retail is more aware of what's going on with Tesla, but it did. I did enjoy seeing Ben Kahlo on CNBC talking up Tesla. I was like, who's this? Who's this guy with this deep voice? I love his voice. And oh, it's Ben Kahlo. So it's like that was good to see that.
How many shares does your fund hold?
So our clients as a whole own over 300,000 Tesla shares, and this is as of June 30th, and Gerber Kawasaki dropped to under 300,000 shares among all his clients. So like you can't just look at it as ETF. It's like how many shares do his clients as a whole own?
Thank you, Bradford. Are you lightening up heading into the 10th event?
We did lighten up yesterday. This is not financial advice, and past performance is no guarantee of future returns. But we did lighten up in July around this area. But we also added at a lower price. So we've kind of been taking advantage of the volatility in the stock. Don't really think much has changed for Tesla, but it's great to see 12.5.4 rolling out. I tested Smart Summon this morning, but I also wanted to test how the current model of FSD is driving in Carmel, and it's great on my hardware 4 or AI 4 Model X, and Smart Summon did fine. Auto Park continues to be perfect for me. It's great. I got Auto Park on my Cybertruck, and it does parallel parking. Does it fine. It's not quite as good as I am, but I'm a good parallel parker, but that's about all I'm good with driving. But it does a good job. So maybe that's part of the run up is people are finally seeing these new versions of the software coming out. I do
Thank
think
you
it's
very
like
much. Yeah.
very bullish that 12.5.4 went out to tens of thousands of vehicles.
Yeah, we have about Tesla in this space every morning. The first thing we get an update on what percent of the fleet has 12.5, and he informed us this morning at the beginning of the space that 1/3 of the fleet in US and Canada has 12.5, which means they experienced um, steering wheel nag free FSD, which is amazing. Omar tells us that it is a big deal. Every single person who's come through the space, the nag free steering wheel nag free FSD makes a big difference. Dirty Tesla has said the same in one of my deeper conversations. AI Driver has said the same as well. So everyone who's tried this thing agrees it's a big deal. It's a big step change in user experience. Omar, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah. This is hands down the biggest FSD update ever, right? And I think it's so crazy that we saw all this skepticism leading up to FSD 12. People said, these guys have lost it. It's not getting better. It's never going to work. Not realizing that they were working on V12. And then when V12 came out earlier this year, crazy that it was just earlier this year, there was a reset of expectations. Everybody said, whoa, okay, clearly this thing is capable of way better driving than we imagined. But then as we waited and people were still on 12.3 and we waited and waited for the no nag, the same people who had to admit that they were wrong when FSD 12 rolled around started saying, you know what? It's never going to happen. It's not getting better, so on and so forth. And well, now they've released an update that is arguably an even bigger leap than V11 to V12. It's a 5 times larger model than 12.3. It has no nag. It enables driverless use of the FSD stack for the first time in parking lots with actually Smart Summon. And it just works. You tell it where you want it to go and it just takes you there. Even if some crazy stuff happens along the way. Even if a clown is on a unicycle juggling balls and falls off, it'll still do the right thing. It'll go around the clown perfectly. And it's just a life changer. Sitting in hours
Good.
of traffic every day in California, just sitting there without having to touch a thing, you literally feel tired. You know, you feel fatigued. It hurts your body when you have to manually drive a car after experiencing what it feels like to just sit there and have your car take you around. I think as Americans try this experience and Canadians, you know, they're now giving ass demos when you do a test drive of a Tesla. They'll summon the Tesla to you and then have you go do the test drive. So watch what that does to conversion rates. This is starting to become a viral phenomenon where you're just going to be walking around a parking lot and you see a car rolling around without a driver, a really good looking car. And you go, whoa, what kind of car is that? And where can I get
Yeah.
one?
All right. I mean, anyway, everybody wants ass. If you want to hear more about getting ass, how to get ass, and also clowns juggling balls, please hit the like button. Take a moment to hit the like button. The link is at the top of our screens on YouTube. Even if you're listening in X, please take a moment to scroll up and like this video because it really helps. I mean, I've been reviewing some statistics on analytics on the YouTube channel over the weekend, and there's a huge direct correlation between number of likes and reviews and ad revenue and a bunch of other metrics. So please take a moment to do that now. Hustletown, and now we're going to talk to Matthew and Bradford about oil prices and a little bit of macroeconomics. Hustletown?
Had a quick question for the board, those that with 12.5.4. The navigation seems to be a recommendation for me. I've only done a couple of drives, but it seems to be doing whatever it wants and still getting to the destination despite the navigation telling it to like do like U-turns and stuff. It just ignore all of that. Have anybody been experiencing that?
JC.
Yeah, H-Town, the exact same thing happened to me yesterday. So my very first drive with 12.5.4, took it out and it was doing perfect. And for some reason, about a tenth of a mile out to a little food market that I was headed to, it needed to get over to the right and it wouldn't do it. It just kept going. But it immediately got over into the left turning lane, did a beautiful U-turn that it shouldn't have had to do, but still it was beautiful, and got right into the parking lot. Perfect. I mean, and handled like other cars coming at it like very, very confidently. But you're right, there's still like this, there's some navigational hiccups that it's having. But what I've noticed with 12.5 is that you don't really have to worry about that. Yeah, it may take you 500 feet or, a tenth of a mile to go do a U-turn, but it's still having those little navigational issues. It just handles it a lot more confidently.
Good. Thank you very much. Okay, Matthew, thank you very much for coming up to the speaker board on short notice. Somebody tagged Matthew as an oil expert. And Matthew, we were wondering your thoughts around oil prices declining below $70 per barrel. And do you think this takes out some of the higher cost producers in Texas?
Yeah, thanks for the ping. Always glad to be up here. I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I appreciate y'all calling me an expert. Interesting dynamics in the oil market. First, you got to look globally because it's a global commodity. You look at China. China came out and said that they were going to activate some stimulus in their economy, push the price of oil up a little bit. I do not believe that the China stimulus is really going to be driving the price of oil upwards in the near term future. China likes to play a lot of games with their storage capacity that they have. They bought a lot during COVID. Now they're kind of resettling back down to their normals. So I think that's a head fake. What I do see is I see a lot of the industry leaders understanding now that if you do not invest in AI, you die, and they understand that not necessarily all AI companies are making money, but they will be making money in the future, and that the energy requirements that are going to be required to do this are going to be very positive for the oil and gas industry. On the coal side, I don't believe everything that Goldman Sachs has to say. They have interests that are way above my pay grade, and they move the market the way that they need the market to move. I'm very favorable. I'm very bullish on a long-term higher price of natural gas going into the future because of the natural gas power plants that'll be required for AI, and then also LNG exports coming out of Texas and the Gulf Coast in Louisiana. So,
Okay.
Yep, there you go.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that color. Bradford, let's switch to macro with the context that Matthew just provided.
Well, I want to push
Oil
back
price.
on the natural gas thing.
Okay, go ahead.
What we're seeing, what Matt Smith and I are seeing, and we invested in Bloom Energy, and that was a bad one for us. They make natural gas fuel cells that AI data centers should be using, but none of them even want to do natural gas, even though a fuel cell burns it cleanly. There's no particulate matter with it. I'm not sure the AI data centers are going to go the natural gas route. They're all talking about nuclear and the clean stuff from solar, wind, and battery.
Okay, Bradford, what do you think about the recent Fed action cutting 50 basis points? Oil prices declining, gasoline prices declining in recent weeks very rapidly. And despite Putin talking about nuclear weapons a few minutes ago, we don't see any impact on the oil market. And I was listening to a CNBC interview before I hopped on here, and the oil analyst was talking about pointing out how heavily shorted the oil market is by financial institutions. Today, WTI shows $69 per barrel. This obviously has very positive implications on inflation rate. Were you surprised by the 50 basis point cut by the Fed? And do you expect the rates to come down at that pace going forward?
I wouldn't expect it to be 50 basis points at every meeting. So even the Fed is saying that they expect 100 this year and 100 next year. At least that's what they were saying initially. But they have like at least 6 meetings a year. I think maybe it's closer to 9. Do you know, Yaman, how many there are every year?
Yeah, they meet about every 6 weeks, so probably 9.
Okay. Yeah, so they might go in chunks of 50. I thought there was a chance that 50 could panic people into thinking that the economy is worse than people think. We still have concerns about the economy, what we're seeing, but we're not seeing it in like the jobless claims. Is that so right, Yaman? Like we're not seeing the
initial
layoffs and
weekly
the jobless
jobless
claims.
claims, right? The jobless claims are low, which means there's not much layoffs, but the hiring rate is also low. So I think a lot of parties across the economy are going to kind of wait and hold until this election is over. Okay. Thank you, Bradford, for all the comments. Bradford says he's lightening up. Omar Bradford says he's lightening up on his Tesla position going to this 10-10 event. On the other hand, Goldman Sachs says buy call options. And we're kind of torn between those two across the spectrum. What do you think? Are you adding shares here?
Not here, but I was adding shares over the last few months. just a strategy that has been very successful for me over the years is just to buy Tesla shares when they crap their pants and then to hold them long term. Okay, so autonomous cars are making incredible progress. Forget about what do you think about Elon? What do you think about Pure Vision? Clearly, there is something coming that's about to change the world, and that's self driving cars. We're seeing it in the early stages now. I take driverless rides all the time. My car is now able to drive me around, handle complicated drives, hours entirely on its own without me touching anything while I just sit there looking at it. So, people are still like, well, I don't know. It might take a long time. It might take a long time, but it is happening and it is happening fast. Okay. So, the world as we know it is going to change. When you watch those movies in the 90s and nobody has a smartphone, you're like, wow, I can't even recognize this world. It's so different than today. That's the kind of world we're headed into with autonomous robots moving around the world, doing tasks for us, being part of the economy. And, trying to trade Tesla, it's going to be a little higher, it's going to be a little lower. It's like, trying to trade Apple in the 90s or the 2000s when they were much smaller than they are today. This company is exceptional. I think they're going to be one of the largest companies in the world, and they're carrying the torch on innovation. Innovation is a leading indicator of earnings. You look at Apple, for example, all this innovation, even from Next Step, Mac OS, it's carried into a strong moat and earnings power for years and years and years to come. But you look at the level of innovation coming out of the company today, we added a new button to the phone, whatever. And you
Right.
look at Tesla, hey, your car's now going to come driverlessly to you in the grocery store and come get you. So you don't have to go walk to your car with your bags.
Right.
It's a completely different level of life changing. And that is a leading indicator of earnings growth, I believe.
Right. Bradford, do you agree with that statement? Actually, Smart Summon rolling out to today, I believe about 8 to 10% of the fleet has on the US and Canada has actually Smart Summon, and seems to be going well. Looks like Tesla increased the radius of the function, so you can now. Omar, what was the number? 280 feet.
Yeah, 85 meters, 280 feet.
Okay, 280 feet, which is amazing, right? Bradford, do you think this will lead to an increase in the FSD take rates and therefore earnings?
Yeah, so I think it was 2020 when I was last showing clients Smart Summon, and it was pretty good. Um, it was able to navigate around a concrete island in the middle of the parking lot. It was pretty good, but it was slow. Um, this version is really good, and it's something I'm gonna be showing off to people, and I think that's gonna happen at a macro level with Tesla owners. Um, so I think there's the potential of what you're talking about.
Okay, good. And as Omar pointed out in yesterday's space, what Tesla is able to do in the parking lots is only limited to the parking lots because of an arbitrary limit. Tesla is showcasing their capabilities of what they can do with FSD, and people are witnessing this. Millions of people are going to witness this in the coming months. And at some point, Omar, right, Tesla will remove that limit, and you'll be able to do it even outside of parking lots. Okay. I take silence as agreement. Oh, right, there we go. We see 100 emoji. Thank you. Bradford, let me ask you about a different macro topic, which also impacts Tesla quite a bit here. There is a major port strike looming. on the East Coast and Gulf of Mexico. So across the East Coast, we're talking tens of thousands of people negotiating wage increases and trying to slow down automation. Let me just read you and get your comment. Read to you the couple of paragraphs and then get your comments on this, how you think about it in terms of macroeconomics, inflation, supply chain bottlenecks, and therefore Tesla stock as well. And here is the summary. The International Longshoremen Union, representing 45,000 port workers across the East and Gulf Coast, may strike if a deal isn't reached by September 30. Flexport CEO Ryan Peterson, speaking of market domination, highlights that the strike's impact depends on its duration. A brief strike of a few days might have minimal effects, coinciding with China's Golden Week holiday when factories are closed, reducing port activity. However, a prolonged strike could significantly disrupt supply chains, similar to but potentially worse than COVID disruptions, due to a reduction in supply rather than increased demand. Peterson explains that a lengthy strike could take 15% of the world's container ships offline, creating a severe backlogs and skyrocketing prices. The conflict stems from a standoff over automation, which employers favor to cut costs and reduce the workforce, while the union resists to protect jobs. Rerouting shipments to the West Coast isn't feasible, as those ports cannot handle the extra volume. If ships are delayed on East Coast ports, global supply chains could face cascading disruptions with cargo buildups and unpredictable consequences worldwide. Bradford, is this something that you worry about in the context of macroeconomics and Tesla stock?
Absolutely. I think a lot of our inflation and supply chain disruption came from problems with the California ports. And they were needing to try and reroute things to the East Coast, to the Gulf, but there's also like issues with the canal. Uh, I'm forgetting what's going on with the canal right now, but I don't know if it's still ongoing, but it's not good. So I think this is a major risk for sure, and could lead to shortages and inflation for sure.
Okay, great. And Machine also mentioned this issue a couple of days ago. So Machine was ahead of the space yet again by a couple of days, highlighting this looming port strike. And Machine's mom is in YouTube live chat, which you can access through the link at the top of your screens. And Machine's mom says, if we reach 200 likes today, she's going to release pictures on X. Omar, what do you think about this looming port strike?
Yeah, it could potentially be an issue. Tesla tries to localize its production as much as possible, but hopefully they're able to make a deal and avert disruption. This is a really critical moment for inflation. We really need to see inflation hit that 2% target. We need to see it stay there and not see further deterioration in the labor market. So oil prices coming down, that's very encouraging. Stuff like a port strike, that can potentially make a situation a lot stickier. This is going to be one thing, right? In the past, you've seen the president even get involved or political leaders get involved to try and prevent these union strikes. But when you have things that increase costs, contribute to inflation, this thing alone isn't going to tip it. But if you have sort of several different strikes or several different things, maybe oil prices rising, and then you have a weakening labor market and inflation remains stubbornly high, that makes it a little more difficult to enact effective monetary policy. So I'm hopeful they can make a deal and avert any disruption to supply chains.
Okay, good. And I suspect, I think there's going to be a strike, but I think it's going to last maybe a couple of days. That's my base case assumption right now. And especially during an election, like leading up to this election, I suspect they're going to get a lot of political pressure to end the strike. It would be a huge issue if that happens. And Omar is right. I mean, we're kind of on the verge of seeing 2% inflation. Whether in September, October, I don't know, but probably by year end, we're going to see 2% inflation. And that will be very positive news. So, okay. So that covers the strike. Omar, while you're here, I want to ask you about what's his face? The FSD, the hacker account. Not the hacker, but you know who I'm talking about.
FSD hacker? You mean
No, no.
green?
Yeah, green only. Green only.
Well,
So
he's
the
not a
green only
hacker.
says, okay. I mean, so how would you refer to him?
Well, I guess he is a hacker, yeah.
Okay. So the green only says, kind of unexpected takeaway from the recent FSD v12.5 updates. Tesla is now building hardware 4 images for Intel-based Model 3s, but not legacy XX. I wonder why. Could be an artifact of their build system or something bigger, I guess. Also, webcam summon. Is that like an FPV remote? I guess the other interesting development is Tesla split autopilot firmwares. Now Node A and Node B get different images, both for hardware 4 and hardware 3. It's a bit strange since they used to be the same before. And if on hardware 3, it makes sense to conserve limited space and only have what's needed for a local node on hardware 4, which I don't even know. This is a different language, man. I need you to explain it to us and also maybe about Tesla can make some sense of it.
Yeah, so like he said, it could be nothing. It could be just some weird artifact of their build system. A build system is the system that takes the source code and produces a binary that the processor can run. So, the fact that they have hardware 4 with Intel Atom is like, huh? There's never been any hardware 4 on an Intel Atom computer. So maybe this suggests that they're working on a retrofit, which would be exciting if you have a hardware 3 car to have the possibility to upgrade. I would think that Elon would tell them, look, develop this as a backup plan. So that way, if we ever run into an issue where we need the extra power of hardware 4, we have that ready to be able to offer a retrofit if needed. And, all those cars sort of paid for FSD. You don't want to say, okay, you can't run the latest update, but you also don't want to be, sort of tied at the ankle to hardware 3 and not able to upgrade them. So that could be an explanation for that, but it's not a definite thing. It could just be, some weird thing that they're doing there.
Very interesting. Okay, so the takeaway sentence here is what Green the Only is observing could be an indication that Tesla might be working on an upgrade to hardware 3 vehicles. A hardware upgrade to hardware 3 vehicles. Is that fair? Fair summary?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, just to give a little more context on where he's getting this information from, Green the Only is a Linux kernel hacker. So he specializes in the Linux kernel. I think maybe I heard a rumor he may even be like a contributor or something. I don't know if that's true. But, the Tesla cars run Linux. So your car runs Linux. And he essentially gets the FSD computers and then he uses exploits or something to root into the device to get root access to the FSD computer. He can then pull firmware images from Tesla using the command line tools they have installed on the system, inspect those firmware images, inspect the file system. And of course, you can see all kinds of things in the file system, configuration, strings, all kinds of interesting stuff. So he's essentially getting information directly from the firmware images on our computer. And he happened to notice that there are firmware images available for hardware 4 with Intel Atom, which is kind of a weird combination that has never shipped in a production car before.
Very interesting. Thank you very much for explaining all that. Yoda, what do you think about this development? Do you think Tesla will do a hardware upgrade for hardware 3 vehicles?
No, I think hardware 3 is capable.
So then what do you make of Green the Only's post then?
Yeah, there's always, I think, people who are able and interested in hacking, and they find interesting things. But yeah, I just wouldn't read too much into it.
Okay, thank you. Quick shout out to Hollis for again the super chat this episode as well. Hollis, thank you very much for the super chat for supporting the channel. All right. If you're a hardware 3 owner and you want to communicate to Tesla that you want a hardware upgrade for your vehicle, please go up to the top of your screens, click in the live YouTube live video, and click the like button. And maybe if we get to 1,000 likes, Elon will think that, wow, these customers really want it. About Tesla, what do you think?
Just wanted to add some context, and I think maybe what Green the Only is referring to is if you look which cars are currently getting the latest update, version 12.5.4. So it looks like it does go to hardware 3 and hardware 4, and it goes to all the models, but not all combinations are currently supported. So for example, Model S and Model X, right now, only hardware 4 cars are getting this update. There are no hardware 3 cars listed Tesla 5 at the moment. So there are hardware 3 cars, but only Model 3 and Model Y. So I think that's probably what he's referring to, which is kind of strange. Why would you support hardware 3 for Model 3 and Model Y, but not for Model S and X? So puzzling.
Okay. Omar?
So this is a little off topic, but we have some pretty significant AI releases. Llama 3.2 multimodal. Llama 3, the open model from Meta, they're now going to allow visual processing too. So this is big for an open model. We haven't had a multimodal LLM that's open source that's really great yet. And OpenAI is also releasing their advanced voice mode. And that's been something that they've been waiting to release for a long time. So you can go try that out now if you're a paid ChatGPT user, and it's pretty impressive.
You have tried it. What do you think of it? Can you give us more details about how it changes the experience?
It's like talking to a person on the phone, except that person knows everything.
Yeah, that's amazing. OpenAI, I believe it was Uzi who pointed out in AI amateur space that OpenAI has this 5-level roadmap to AGI. Omar, do you think we are at the level 3 milestone where AIs act as agents for humans going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. You're seeing it start to happen. I mean, think about your coworkers in a modern office, a modern remote office. You may never see your coworker. They may be just a name in a Slack chat. So if they're just someone you talk to on Slack, why can't an AI be a coworker too? It's not going to do everything, but you could say, "Hey, can you email this customer? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you figure out, who our best supplier is here? Look at some of the data." And your AI coworker can start to do a lot of these things. A lot of the efforts I've seen have been really focused on AI agents and taking LLMs to the next level where it's not just understanding language, but actually performing tasks, responding to new information, reaching out to people, and essentially acting like a coworker or a developer.
Very good. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, just following up on that, fascinating. I encourage everyone to try it out. What makes it significantly different than the previous voice model that they had, it is far better in respect to when you're interrupting it. It's able to truly hold that conversation, like Omar said. Um, Action-based initiative, like it cannot perform actions yet, meaning, unfortunately, we're just not at that point where we can tell it or train it on the voice model to perform an action like submit an HTTP request or a post request. But that is this next thing that is going to change all this.
Yoda.
Well, I mean, you can tell it to do something. The model doesn't do it, but it can recognize what you want it to do, and some application that's consuming the API could then do it.
I have noticed you can trick it by, on certain apps, there are URIs, right? Like, so that you can, I don't know, get it to, for example, write a text message like to your mom, and then you can have it with variables import or input the name, but it can't really, anyway, it's just not fully there yet, but I think it's on purpose.
I mean, I would say that OpenAI isn't really trying to do those tasks yet. They have said maybe it's something they're going to implement in the future. But what people are really implementing is consuming the OpenAI API, using these models, including multimodal GPT 4.0, and then essentially coming up with an intent and then executing that intent through their platform. So you have seen people string together the API with other functionality to come up with these sort of AI agents. But honestly, you're right. It seems like something that's going to be a natural next expansion for OpenAI.
Yoda.
Yeah, this advanced voice API is something that I've been looking for. Right now, from a development perspective, the voice to voice, sort of the end-to-end voice chat workflow, is complicated. My current implementation has to go and detect a pause in speaking and therefore stop the recording, then take that audio stream into some wave format, server side through Ajax, save that stream into wave file, and use OpenAI's Whisper model to convert that speech into text. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of the workflow, right? And so this is going to package everything well, and sound natural. Um, yeah, I think this morning I had a great conversation with Rains, and we might be working on something together, hopefully. He's gonna, when he gets the API, he's gonna try and spin up an MVP. The idea is to, have this, chief product evangelist like Guy Kawasaki was for Apple and Canva, for Tesla to start. We have so many questions that we get from prospective buyers, tons of questions, and we think we can maybe put something together.
Okay, great. Thank you, Yoda. Omar, first of all, Dallas, do you have anything to say? Thanks for coming up to speaker board. Okay. Let's see. Omar, you mentioned Llama is releasing a multi-model version, and that this is a first for open source and an open source model. How does this directly relate to Tesla investors, say in the next year, or is this an important milestone that will be beneficial for humanity overall in the longer term? Is there any way this impacts Tesla investors in the next year or two?
Um, yes, both. It impacts humanity positively and it impacts Tesla positively. I mean, these vision based LLMs are a game changer for self driving. They're the missing piece of the puzzle. They're how you go from simply being a dumb little object detector, object detected, go around it, to actually understanding culture, understanding context, understanding what the hell is really going on, right? And it's interesting when you look at Waymo's technical presentations, they've said our visual, our VLM, our vision language model has been really key to making Waymo work. So, for example, if I'm Tesla and I'm trying to label data and I notice that, you know, for example, let's say, I'm going around a stopped car and I'm going around a stopped car, but, sometimes I'm having interventions going around the stopped car if the person's about to jump out of the car. So maybe my model's having trouble telling the difference between when it can go and when it shouldn't go. But now I can give a bunch of data to a large vision language model, one that's much larger than what can run on the car. And I could say, for example, hey, does it look like the guy's about to get out of the car or something like that? And I can ask it visual questions about the image. I can use it to help label the data. It's incredibly powerful. You've seen them use these generative techniques and language models in the development of FSD, and it's been game changing. Before, they had to build a whole simulator to simulate what a scene could look like. Now they can just type in a text prompt and say, hey, generate variations of this scene. Generate this scene, but show the driver driving in the left lane instead of the right lane. And the advance of generative AI really puts a lot of wind in their sails. I mean, you notice when a lot of these huge generative AI advances came to market, that's when FSD started taking off as well. And it's not a coincidence.
Okay, great. Today we have a really good set of speakers, lots of hands, interesting topics. I want to continue this more than 2 hours, but we only have about half hour left. Okay. If you want to continue more than 2 hours, please go up to the top of your screens, click to the YouTube live button link, and like the video. If we get to, for every like we get to above 200 likes, we'll keep it going for 1 more minute. Okay, so 230 likes means another half hour. About Tesla.
I just wanted to add, I'm really excited to try this Llama 3.2. I played a little bit with Llama 3.1. I have it installed on my laptop, and it's pretty amazing what a small, really tiny model that can be installed on a computer, personal computer, or eventually on a phone can do. So, I mean, it's one thing when you talk to ChatGPT, knowing that there are some big servers running somewhere on the back end, but it's completely different story when you have a small laptop running this, this model, and and you can talk to it. You can ask questions. You can, like, for example, what I did. I was planning a trip and I was asking questions about, okay, we are going to have a stop for a few hours at certain city. Can you propose like a self-guided tour for that city? What should we see? How we should route? And it would do everything. It would explain the history of that place. It would explain what are the best attractions to visit, and it will plan my trip exactly like I thought. I have that much time, and it will figure out where my starting point is. It will
Thank you.
put it on the map and everything. So it's and will explain, give you all the background, nature, about history, about everything. So it's
Okay, thank you. Your sound quality is getting disconnected. Yoda.
Hey Omar, I'm not sure if you've looked into this, but What's your thought on Feifei's new company, World Labs, and their approach?
Before we switch topics, Chris. Chris. Chris is having issues. All right. Yeah, I recommend people invest into Apple AirPods Pro. That seems to be the best solution. I tried a bunch of different ones. Just try to make sure your sound quality is good as much as you can, please. Yoda, you were asking Omar about a company.
Yeah, the only reason why I still hold Apple is because of their AirPod superior technology. But yeah, my question for Omar is looking at Fei Li's World Labs technology around, spatial AI approach. Do you think that technology is required and or will be used by Tesla to improve FSD in the future, whether they use her solution or they come up with something similar?
Well, I mean, Tesla is building large world models. That's what FSD is, right? So I'm not really sure what this company is going to do. I'm sure they're going to have some very exciting research. Fei Li, one of the co-founders, was the woman who started ImageNet. ImageNet was a project at Stanford where they just took a bunch of images and then a bunch of labels for what those images are. Baseball, computer, whatever. And they said, hey, who can use a computer program to tell us what these things are, to identify these things? And we're going to have a training set, and then we're going to have a test set that we test you on, and who can have the best performance. And then when AlexNet in 2012 won ImageNet by training a neural network on GPUs, that was when everything changed 12 years ago. So that was kind of this historic moment in deep learning. Before that, people were using all kinds of other sort of approaches to computer vision, which were not as good. And people didn't really realize that you could use neural networks because they were so slow to train. But then when these guys said, hey, you can actually train them on the GPU, and a couple GPUs for 8 hours, we were able to beat ImageNet. That was when everything changed. So that's why people, when you see Fei Li doing something, you're like, okay, I wonder what she's working on. And I'm sure these guys are really brilliant. Um, you know, Google, Stanford, seem like brilliant people. I don't know what they're going to work on or whether they're going to be able to make it into a business, but the field is clearly advancing really rapidly. There's tons of capital being poured into advancing things like, 3D world models. And that's going to benefit Tesla. Researchers talk to each other, they publish papers, they can work together at times. So I see it as a positive.
Okay. Chris, what is your question? 10 words or fewer. You have to start with the question word. Chris, you have to unmute yourself for us to hear you.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with
Just
my
a question, 10 words or fewer, and start with the question word.
Omar.
1, 2.
Omar, what is the
3, 4, 5? You have 5 words left to ask your question. Thank you. All right. Anybody who increases moderation need in the space is not welcome on the speaker board. Okay. Omar, what do you think about Uber announcing all these deals across the world with BYD in the Middle East, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Cruise in US, and now WeRide in the UAE? Uber is taking this robotaxi threat very seriously. They're taking a lot of action, and they're doing so around the world.
Yeah, this is like if the Titanic is going down and the captain is telling you about all these deals he's making. He's made a deal with the iceberg, he's made a deal with the other ship company, and you're just kind of like, dude, the ship is sinking. There's a big iceberg and we're headed straight for it. And that iceberg is called autonomy. So, they're doing their best. I think they've got great leadership. They're a great company. But even the strongest ship, when faced with a never before seen storm of epic proportions, even a great ship is in danger.
Yeah, the rules of the space are very clear. First time speakers and speakers who have never made a good point are limited to asking questions only, 10 words or fewer. You have to start with the question word, which are what, when, which, who, where, how, etc. Very simple. If people cannot abide by these rules, they're not welcome on the speaker board. Tesla Live is a tight ship. It is not like other spaces. And it's also not like AI amateurs. Okay. Tesla Live is a tight ship. We have high quality speakers. To make it to the speaker board, you have to abide by the rules. It's very simple. If you don't want to abide by the rules, you can fuck off. All right. And those of you who reply to the space with negative commentary when I enforce the rules can also fuck off. And I will actually remove you from the space. So let's see who just replied. Pestabus. Let's find them and get them out of here. Nick.
Hi, Yaman. Yeah, so I just got I didn't get 12.4, but I got 12 point I believe it was 12 point shoot, give me a second. 12.5.2. And yeah, it's very much a lot smoother. However, there was a couple issues that I ran into. If you wanted to discuss them, or if you don't, that's fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the first ones I issued, the sun was, it was like yesterday, and the sun was like glaring straight into the car, and I got immediately the red steering wheel, and I had to take over. So I was going maybe like 10 miles per hour, and it it was probably the worst glare I've ever been in, and so I got that. So that's just like a one-off. But there was a two-lane turning, left-hand turn, and I was in the right lane, and we were turning left, and it went into uh, it was going to go into the block the car that was right behind me in the left lane, and so that was a critical disengagement that I received. So those are the two negatives. However, there's a lot of, and then one more. It's still not going into an HOV lane on the highway. This has been a grunt of mine for a while, but it won't cross a solid white line to go into the HOV lane to go in and out. But the positives,
And you turn the checkbox on?
the HOV lane,
Yeah.
yes, that yeah.
Mm.
So that was on, but the positives are that it's so much smoother. It handles switching lanes much more aggressively and quickly. and that was a big pet peeve because it wasn't 3.6 wasn't the full highway stack yet, and and then overall the speed in some residential areas is much better, where it's learning to go with the flow of traffic, even if there isn't a flow. It's not going like 5 miles below the speed limit. It's going the right speed.
FSD unsupervised.
I just wanted to know if it was possible that when you're on the highway stack, now that I have 12.5.4, it seems like it's even more aggressive than before. Is that even possible?
I mean, I've I've seen it pull off some moves that are like, whoa, what the hell is this Need for Speed? Like some of the lane changes on the 405 in LA rush hour traffic, and it can just accelerate. Like my like sometimes your jaw is just on the floor at like the things it's doing. It's really getting so assertive, it's crazy.
Dallas, what'd you think of me removing the other person for not asking the question 10 words or fewer? I saw you gave me a couple of thumbs down.
I was not giving you the thumbs down. I was giving the guy who couldn't follow a pretty simple request a thumbs down.
Good. JC?
Yeah, Omar, I was going to have you ask a question about that because I've noticed the same thing on 12.5. There was one time yesterday where the car only needed to get up on the freeway for a mile. And I've got it on assertive. I always keep it on assertive, but it like just went around everybody, got all the way in the left lane, and then literally got back over, maneuvered, and got off on the next exit. And I'm like, this does not feel like version 11. I know it's the same highway stack, but something's going on. So I don't know, Mark, if you got any thoughts
No,
on that.
they've been so here's what they've been doing is they've had the end-to-end highway stack, but they've also been making the old stack drive like what they're seeing with the end-to-end stack and using the end-to-end stack to label data for the old highway stack because they want to see, okay, do we really need to make it end-to-end, or could we actually just use the old stack and like is end-to-end really going to perform better than the best version of the old stack we can think of? And like the other day I saw it make this move where it had to get off the freeway and there was a big semi truck a little while ahead. So before autopilot, and for years I had to deal with this and it would just annoy the hell out of me, but I would accept it. And, it would just change lanes and get behind the semi truck and go 50 miles an hour. This time it accelerated, went ahead of the semi truck, then changed like 3 lanes really quickly at the last minute to take the exit. I was like, huh? That's exactly what I would have done. And you're just seeing it so much more often. Just do it exactly like you would have done, even with a level of assertiveness you would never expect from FSD.
Yeah, exactly, Omar. I mean, I saw that in spades the last couple of days with 12.5. It is just so confident well, everywhere, but especially like on the highway. And that's when I talk to you next, that's the question I was going to ask is like, I know this is the old stack, but man, they have got to be putting some salt and pepper in it.
Yeah, it's, and a lot of people are kind of like, hey, why is it waiting until the last minute to make a lane change? Like, if you don't live in a city, you're just like, why is it doing this? And they even have on the release notes, coming soon, earlier and more natural lane changes. But in order to train it to really master the ability to get over and make lane changes quickly, they've kind of like focused on that for a little bit. And they're really, really focusing on that. Then they're going to sort of make it more natural. After they've really refined and tested and honed in that capability, they'll make it more natural in other regions. But, people will sometimes call that a regression. They'll say, hey, that's a regression because, before it used to get over very early. Now it got over way too late, or maybe it even missed the turn. because it got over so late, and they see that as a regression. But almost all regressions are actually just new features behaving in unexpected ways and new capabilities that are, actually more powerful, that are sort of acting up or, firing up at the wrong time. So, although it may not seem like it, especially if you live in an area that's not a major urban area, this ability to really quickly change lanes when it needs to is a powerful capability that it's mastering that is going to really reduce interventions and misturns.
Dallas.
I got a quick question for Omar on the smart summon feature, if he's okay with that.
Yeah.
So the only issue I've run into so far, I mean, it's works so well, is its recognition of what a parking lot is and isn't. Uh, Currently, I was actually just testing it, and I'm in this very slim parking lot right on the edge of a road, and it's only one lane of parking spots. And the car won't let me use Summit because it thinks I'm on the road. So curious, is it the GPS point of the vehicle, or like how do they determine what's a parking lot? Because I'm in one and I can't use it right now.
Yeah, it is sometimes error prone. They're relying on the map data to tell them what's a public road and what isn't. So I had one grocery store that I tested in where it was able to get like 90% of the way there. But then when it got to this one part of the parking lot, which is not really a road, but kind of showed as a road on the map, it would just stop. So that's just kind of an unfortunate limitation. Hopefully, maybe some of those map errors are fixed over time, but again, an artificial restriction. They don't want you to use it on public roads. So it just checks the map. If it thinks it's on a public road, it won't let you move.
Dallas.
Yeah, back to FSD. I just wanted to add this 1254 is the most confident I've ever used. I mean, the only time I ever drive is when I want to do things that I feel like the car wouldn't do. Um, but today was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I was trying to turn right. There was an extremely long line in the right turn lane, not a solid white line, dotted line, but the vehicle actually, when everyone started flowing, instead of waiting in the line, it got one lane over to the left and then found a gap right in that line to cut 20 something cars. And it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, that's something I would have done. And it just absolutely blew me away. I couldn't believe the car did that.
Photo.org.
Hi guys, thank you for taking my questions. My question is, why did Waymo and Cruise partner with Uber, and what are the pros and cons for Tesla partnering with Uber? I've always seen Uber as a distribution, like they have more of the user, a lot of users have their apps already. So doesn't it make sense for Tesla to partner with them? What do you guys think?
Omar.
I mean, you know, how many Teslas with FSD are on the Uber network compared to how many Waymos and Cruises? Zero Cruises, zero Waymos, tons of Teslas with FSD. They don't need a partnership. They're already, you know, deeply integrated. So they're gathering more rideshare data than any other company just from the existing Teslas that are on Uber's network. And, they've done deals in the past, for example, where Uber has given you $1,000 off a new Tesla, as in Uber, the company, will pay for it for an Uber driver, which is kind of crazy, if you do a certain number of drives. So I don't know if they're really going to expand the partnership. I think Uber has done a pretty good job at working with Tesla using the APIs. They now let drivers pull their battery status from the Tesla API so they don't get trips that are more than the range they have left. They now automatically send the address to your Tesla. So it's really easy to get FSD to drive there. So I think that Uber and Tesla have a great thing going. Maybe they could expand that partnership, but I don't think any formal deal really needs to happen. Tesla obviously is focused on building their own rideshare network, and it's going to be way better than Uber. It's going to be like the Tesla app you have today. As a matter of fact, it is going to be the Tesla app. The same Tesla app you use to control your vehicle is also going to be the app that calls the robotaxi. But it's not just going to be some car. It's going to pull in your cloud profile. When you go into the screen in the rear, your Netflix and your Hulu and everything are all going to be logged in with your account. And your settings are going to be saved. The car is going to be in the temperature you like. You can control it. You can turn on the seat heaters if you like. You can control what music plays. It's going to have your Spotify and your Apple Music account. It knows your home and work addresses. You'll be able to pick the preferred route. You'll be able to pick whether you want FSD to drive on chill, standard, or assertive. All the things you can configure in your Tesla, you'll be able to configure on this rideshare network. And that's going to be a much better experience than Uber. So that's really what they're focused on. Obviously, Uber will continue to be used for supervised rides with Teslas, and Tesla is gathering a ton of data for them. So we thank them for their support. They've been great, very Tesla friendly business, honestly. And Rebecca Tanucci, former head of supercharging, now works there. So overall, pretty good relationship, especially considering Tesla wants to eventually compete with them. I think Dara Khosrowshahi, the CEO of Uber, just doesn't really see Tesla as a threat in rideshare. He says, they don't want to deal with all that. But I think behind closed doors, he may be a little more worried than he sounds in interviews.
I mean, didn't Rebecca Tanucci get fired from Tesla?
Yeah, she
Yeah,
got
so
fired
how
by Elon.
yeah, so how is that an indication of good relations with Uber? Just because Uber hired her?
I mean, they're just generally a very EV friendly business. And I don't know if they're doing it for PR or whatever. They embrace EVs, they buy their drivers EVs, they've got good integration with Tesla. They show you chargers in the app. They're really trying to make EVs a big part of their fleet. And, Rebecca Tanucci, even though she got fired by Tesla, she's obviously an EV advocate, a charging advocate. She spent a significant, part of her career on this. She believes this, and they've, you know, they've really made it a great experience for Tesla drivers, which you wouldn't think Uber would necessarily care about. So I think they support Tesla drivers pretty well. It's really the best car to do Uber in.
Let's see. Uber stock had declined after Tesla announced the robotaxi event, and now it's recovered a little bit. So let's look at the Uber stock real quick. Market cap of $163 billion, and it is a couple percent below all-time highs. Omar, if you had to take a position on Uber today, with a time horizon of a few years, say 5 to 10 years, would you go long or short?
It's a tough one. I mean, it's tough to short a company like this, even if you know that they're facing a big threat. I mean, it can be hard to even short a fraud. So I'd always be more inclined to go long just because it limits my downside to whatever capital I put in. But I mean, they're facing a major disruption from autonomy, and people still don't believe autonomy is real. Autonomy is real. It's here. You can use it. It's expanding fast, and things are going to change a lot in the next few years. So I would not want to touch this stock with a 10-foot pole, frankly.
Okay, we're going to continue on this. We have 10 minutes to go, 10-minute warning, unless the number of likes on this episode gets to 200. Currently, we have 128 likes. We have several hundred people in this space. If everyone, even if like 20% of the people in the space go up to the top of the screen, click the link at the top and like the YouTube video, then we can keep this space going. We'll keep this space going. Okay. So
I
please
I
do
actually
so.
just got off the phone with Ashok. He said that they're looking for some new testers. They're not really sure. They don't just want to give it to anyone, and they want to kind of make sure they're people who understand these things. So they're going to be looking at who liked the YouTube video and sending actually smart summon to those people first.
You heard it here first. Ashok says, if you like the video, it's so funny.
What about my sonnet, Omar?
Well, it worked, didn't it?
Absolutely.
There you go. JC's proof. He's got actually smart summon now.
Wow, we just got 15 more likes instantly. That's so funny. I mean, honestly, when you said I just got off the phone with Ashok, I'm like, wait, how'd you do that?
Yeah, his voice delivery, Yaman, I was like, what? And then he got me.
Yeah, I know. I totally believed it for the first 10 seconds. I completely forgot what I was going to ask you. Okay, so you said you wouldn't touch Uber stock with the 10th of fall. Oh, here's the follow-up question. What do you think is the probability that Tesla will start its own robotaxi network in its own app with Teslas in the next 10 years, Omar? Omar, are you there? And he's tweeting. He's talking to Ashok. Ashok is telling Omar to like the video. Let's go to Dallas. Dallas, what do you think is the probability of Tesla starting its own robotaxi network in its own app, Tesla app, in the next 10 years?
95%.
95%. Does anyone believe on the board that it's less than 95%? Okay. Does anyone believe on the board it's 100%? Hustletown does, JC does, okay. Photo.org does, Nick does. Okay. I agree. I think it's going to be close to, if not 100%. And just that alone tells me Uber stock is not investable.
And they're all going to be streaming Tesla Live.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that alone tells me you gotta, like, I agree with Omar, you gotta stay away from this Uber stock. It's tracking all-time highs right now, and PE ratio of about 80, 90, I think. And it is kind of, it's hard to justify that kind of market cap for a company that is probably not going to be around 10 years from now. Dallas?
I just want to clarify the 5% there that I left out is if Putin decides to push the red button. That was just a baked in 5%.
Gotcha. Okay. Omar, what do you think is the probability of Tesla starting its own robotaxi network in its own app, not relying on a network like Uber in the next 10 years?
Very high. More than 90%. They could even launch a supervised rideshare network. I mean, they could do it in a couple weeks for all we know. They've said they're working on it. They've shown us pictures of it.
I think Omar is really getting a call from Ashok. Jimmy?
I wanted to say the Tesla Uber trend follows DJI and GoPro back in the day. GoPro, if you actually look, they line up with each other because GoPro didn't have drones, and so DJI did, and so they made all these same contract deals until eventually they came out with like their own cameras, and then there you saw the GoPro stock go up. They came out with a drone, it failed, their stock started falling down, and now you can see DJI is more of a dominant force, but they did use them to ride on the backs of GoPro for a long time. I see this identical. If you look at the numbers and stuff, it's identical.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jimmy. Omar, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. With Omar's call to action, we now have 147 likes on YouTube. We are 50 away from, we're racing against time. 10 minutes to go, 50 likes. Keeps this space going. Let's see. Nick, you are one of the best salespeople in the world. Would you like to make a call to action for people to like the YouTube video?
Yes, if you find yourself in a place right now where you don't know what to do, or even if you know what to do, this is the time. Time for action is now, and your time to act and respond is right now. So, without delay, go and like and retweet what Yaman just said. Tesla Live. We want to keep it going. So do you.
We go through our lives every day, walking through life, waking up, brushing our teeth, going to work, coming back home, eating dinner, rarely making a difference. This is your chance to make a difference. This is your chance to change something, to keep this space going. Are you really that lazy that you can't go to youtube.com and click one button? This is the problem in this country. This is why America is not winning as much as we used to, because people who can make a difference aren't going on to YouTube and pushing that one button that could change everything.
Vladimir Putin just got back on TV and said if you do not like and repost Tesla Live, nuclear warheads will be coming towards us any second now. Do you not love your children? Push that button.
Not that button that Putin has, the one on YouTube.
Jimmy?
Just a reminder, sharing the video is more important than likes because the more you share, the more people watch and the more likes will automatically happen. This is how Timcast and Tim in IRL grew his channel. It wasn't by likes, it was by shares. Share. So share this channel with everybody that you know. Go through your contacts list and become that annoying person who sends out a text every day at 12 o'clock Central. Join the space.
This is awesome. We are now up to 160 likes. We are 40 away from reaching that record 200 level. Hustle Town.
All right. If we're able to get all these likes, 200, 230, I will not eat until 10:10.
We are trying every method in the sales book of getting people to like this. Amazing. We've tried everything. I mean, hunger strikes, threats, nuclear warheads. Dallas, what do you got?
I just want to say if there's anyone in the audience who has no impact or control of other people in their lives, you do today. You simply have the control to keep 300 plus people listening to a space. All you have to do is click that button. That's a lot of control.
Thank you. Tim Hundley.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else is feeling this or not, but I just suddenly got the urge to call up PBS and donate. That's a joke.
Yeah, this is amazing. We're up to
Sweaty balls.
165 likes. This is amazing. All right. All right, let's go back to Tesla in these next few minutes. Wow. 1010 is only 15 days away. We have Q3 deliveries coming. Goldman Sachs telling people to buy call options. Rafford saying he's letting up a little bit because hype is running too high. Omar is saying that he's been buying shares all year, but maybe not here at this time. I mean, 15 days to go at 1010. This is going to be the most exciting event in Tesla history. Robotaxis are going to change the world. Who knows when they're going to come about? Who knows when they're going to get to wide adoption? There's a few milestones that Tesla has to reach before it gets there. But we're going to get to see the purpose-built robotaxi on 1010. And Elon said at the shareholder event the other year, he said that he's very focused on reducing cost per mile. Tesla purpose-built robotaxi is going to show first principles thinking of Elon Musk on how to reduce costs for transportation, an incredibly valuable proposition. I cannot wait to see. I don't care if they start the robotaxi service on 1010. They probably won't. I don't care if they start the production of this thing in the next year or two. They probably won't. But we will see what Elon Musk can do to cost of transportation around the world. This is an incredibly exciting event. Omar, are the invites going out at this point?
No, I haven't seen any go out yet, but they've got to be coming out any day now, maybe even tonight. Who knows?
I'm getting a lot of questions. What can people do to secure an invite here?
I mean, the chance to register on the IR portal is gone now, so I guess you could try and hit on somebody who gets an invite and try and become their +1.
Do we know how many people are going to be invited to this event?
They said it's going to be pretty limited.
Okay, so Tesla is going to have a very small exclusive event. And I think you mentioned something around VIP invites the other day. I got a question about that on YouTube the other day. Can you clarify that?
VIP invites? What does that mean?
Oh, I don't know. That's what the question said. I don't remember that comment. So maybe the person got it wrong. Okay, and then another question I got. Jimmy, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. If you want to get an invite to the 1010 event, like and subscribe to this space and share it with your friends. It may or may not get you into the event, but it's worth a shot and you have nothing to lose. So try it and yeah.
Exactly. Jimmy is telling you that you have a shot. It may or may not help, but who knows? I mean, I do try to share the list of likes every day with the Tesla account, and maybe that helps. I'm kidding. Spiros, you may go ahead.
Yeah, hi guys. So I posted also the tweet from Drew Balino. I hope I'm saying the name correct. He said back in February, send remote power consumption needs improvement. The team is working to reduce by 40% in the Q2 software update. Unfortunately, he left the company, so this is just stuck in a limbo, I guess. So do we have any update on that one? Is it moving forward? Is anybody working on this? That's for Sentry power consumption reduction. I don't know, Omar, if you have any update on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the status of that is or if it shipped.
Every day, so.
Okay, thank you, Spiros. We'll keep an ear out for that. And Steve Steranka in YouTube live chat says, hitting the like button has been proven via a double-blind placebo study to increase your height by 2 inches, lose 10 pounds of belly fat, and get you that raise at work. He highly recommends hitting that like button. And this is why Steve is one of our moderators in YouTube live chat. And we are up to 193 likes. That's incredible. This is incredible. Dallas.
I can subscribe to TSLA live on YouTube.
How did you do that? How did you do that? Which AI did you use for that?
I just Googled some site. This one's called Try Parrot AI. So it's actually pretty good. It sounds better on mine than I'm sure it did on yours.
That's amazing. No, actually, that was very realistic. Okay, we don't want to do that again, though. Jimmy?
At 250 likes, I heard Elon Musk may or may not join the space, but it's worth a shot.
We actually have an Elon Reeve Musk account right now requesting to speak.
Yaman, if we get to 250 likes, I'll use ABBA on my next FSD videos just for Sweden, so we can get it across to Europe.
I got so much slack for what I said yesterday. Who is ABBA? And I'm gonna watch it on YouTube and maybe try to clip that section from yesterday's episode. And you'll see all the reactions that I got and all the replies. And even today, people are like, I can't believe you don't know ABBA. Like, I don't know. Anyway, Omar, have you heard of ABBA?
Yeah, I don't listen to a lot of their music, but I've heard of them. You know, they have some of those songs.
All right. So I'm the only one. I bet Nick hasn't heard of ABBA. All right. Nick, have you heard of ABBA? Can you name one of their songs? Nick is playing dead. Okay. All right, let's see. Omar, what else do we want to talk about? We just crossed, let's see
Can I-
here, 199 likes. We are 1 like away from 200, our record. We are 1 like away, which is incredible. Congratulations, everybody. And thank you very much for all the creative call to action from my speakers. Without these speakers, I mean, this space is nothing. This is a group effort here. I love it. You know, it's really important people subscribe, and here's why. Right now, if you search for the channel on YouTube, it doesn't come up because we don't have enough subscribers for it to have some sort of like a credibility, I guess. So as you put in the letters VAL, etc., other accounts come up. So it's actually hard to find the channel because we don't have that many subscribers. But in the last 4 or 5 days since I started doing these call to actions for likes, the views on each live stream has increased substantially. We're talking like 20-30% type of increases in just a few days.
You just went to 201.
Yeah, there you go. We just crossed it. Look at this. I mean, people are actually tracking the number of likes right now. 205. Incredible. Okay, let's keep going. Let's go. Omar, what do you want to talk about? Let's talk about something positive. I have a whole list here, but
Well, you know, I had some thoughts about that, question you posed earlier. You said, is this going to be material? Is this going to increase FSD sales? And I think it will probably increase FSD sales somewhat. We'll see how much. But it really is just the tip of the iceberg. And oftentimes in technology, you see these things where they just snowball and where years and decades of progress just lead to a massive amount of value being created on the tail end that you can't really see just looking at the tip of the iceberg on the surface. It kind of reminds me of Apple. When Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, he went and he created a company called Next Step. And they created this amazing operating system, the Next Step operating system, with oriented programming, really great frameworks. The first web browser was actually built on Next Step. And if you really looked at it and said, what's the value of this technology? Next Step wasn't making any money. They were selling a small amount of computers, like a rounding error, to higher education institutes and certain businesses. And the revenue generation from this technology was almost nothing. Now, fast forward a few years later, Apple needed a new operating system for the Macintosh. They acquired Next Step. And, even today, if you're programming in Cocoa on Mac, you type in NS number, NS data, a reference back to Next Step. So this operating system that Steve Jobs made when he left Apple became the foundation for Mac OS. And then it became a much bigger revenue generator when it was on Mac OS. But even then, for 10 years after that or longer, the Mac was a relatively small part of the computer market. Only with the iPhone, the the iPod, the Apple Watch, the AirPods, they're all now running the software that was built up so long ago when he left Apple. So, I mean, it's easy to look at a income statement and say, "Oh, this is generating earnings." What's really difficult to do as an investor is to look at something like the birth of the computer and say, this weird little box that, maybe people are playing games on, running a few spreadsheets, what could this become in decades? And you hear all these stories. If you had invested in Microsoft at this price and held for 20 years, you would have made this many millions of dollars. If you'd invested in Google, if you'd invested in Apple, if you'd invested in Meta and held for 10 years, you'd have made this many dollars. And it's like, wow, okay. So instead of getting up and working every day, if I had just done one thing, if I had just bought this position and held it for years, that could have changed my life. But very few people actually hold anything for 10 years. Very few people actually, try. It's not a get rich scheme. There's a get rich quick scheme. There's lots of troubles along the way. Apple certainly had moments where they were really troubled. In 2008, right after the iPhone went down, the stock fell 50%. How many people have the stomach to hold through something like that? But it really is something that you don't hear a lot of people happen to. You hear those stats on social media. You don't hear a lot of people doing it. This to me feels like one of those moments. You're seeing the tip of the iceberg of technological progress that, as it continues for years and decades, is going to snowball and change the world. And we have kind of a rare opportunity here to watch the birth of one of those companies, one of those institutions that is going to be something that has users up there with Google and Facebook and the biggest online services in the world.
Very good. Thank you, Omar. I watch a lot of accounts. Let's switch topics a little bit. I watch a lot of accounts on YouTube as they relate to the auto industry. So these are non-Tesla auto accounts. And they're starting to talk about Teslas in the light of affordability, how affordable these used Teslas have become. They're measuring specific listings of Model 3, Model Y. I took a couple of notes. You can get a used Model 3 today for about $10,000. High mileage, but still $10,000. I mean, which $10,000 car doesn't have high mileage on the used market? A Plaid for $50,000, a Cybertruck for less than the price of a new one. So Teslas are becoming increasingly affordable on the used market. Omar, do you think this will continue in the coming year or two, or do you think with rates starting to come down a little bit, we're going to see used car prices and Tesla's pricing power come back throughout 2025?
Well, it's complicated. So 50 basis point cut in the federal funds rate is nice. It's not a huge game changer in auto loan rates. Oh, wow, my auto loan rate's only 6.5% instead of 7%. Great. And delinquencies are actually rising. So the availability of credit and auto loans, I think, is still not in a great place. Rates are still very restrictive. The costs of borrowing are still high. And I think affordability is still going to be a major concern. You may see that prices stop falling as fast, but I don't think they're suddenly going to start going in the other direction. Affordability is still going to be a concern, and it's going to take time, even just to get to a less restrictive level in the federal funds rate, let alone have the time for that lower interest rate to seep through the economy, for people to hear about it, and for that to eventually translate into new vehicle sales. So this isn't going to be some kind of magical snap your fingers, everything is fixed. And it is possible the market could be getting a little overexcited. Um, I think that's why you're seeing people like Bradford lighten up a little bit. But overall, I think things are moving in the right direction. In the number of possible scenarios here, I think Tesla has a lot of things going for it. I think they're going to have a record Q3 for sure. I think they've got a shot at having it be a record quarter. And it does help when the federal funds rate is lower, when you're offering promotional incentives like the low interest we're seeing. It gets cheaper to offer those incentives. And that's directly going to translate into gross margins.
Very good. And thanks to all these likes, we now have the highest concurrent viewers on the channel. On the likes, we're up to 212. Thank you very much, everybody. And people letting me know in live chat and replies to the space what number they were. They're very excited about it. I really appreciate all of your help. And even if you're watching the recording on YouTube, like it because it still pushes the recording and the channel out to new viewers, which is the limiting factor right now. Okay. Unions threatening strikes at VW at the beginning of December. This is the same union that gave Tesla a hard time earlier this year in another European country. And now VW getting squeezed on quite a few fronts at the same time. Threatened a strike at the beginning of December. Man, these union threats have not subsided yet, despite the fact that unemployment rates have increased. And there are countries who are in a very significant, serious slowdown, if not a recession, including Germany is in a tough situation, and China is in a tough situation. But unions still have they have extreme demands for raises. In the case of shipping ports, East Coast shipping ports in the U.S., they're demanding a slowdown of automation. The person I was listening to today said, anywhere else across the world, these ports are fully automated. So clearly technology is there, but the unions are kind of demanding that you slow down automation to protect their jobs. I mean, I guess it is the union's role to protect the jobs, but it is slowing down innovation. Omar, what do you think about this, generally speaking? And do you think in the case of Optimus, let's say, the unions will play a role in slowing down the adoption of humanoids in the future?
I think that they will play a role in accelerating Optimus by increasing the cost of labor. These guys are total bloodsuckers. This is the reason why you hire Optimus, so you don't have to deal with these a-holes. Okay? These guys are, they come for you at the worst time when you're already going bankrupt. Okay? No one's buying your cars in China. The ID4 has stopped production. They're literally not making it because the door handles are off. And then suddenly, hey, you got to give us a big raise. Excuse me? Hey, I'm going bankrupt. Well, we demand you go bankrupt faster. And by the way, no automation that would make you more competitive. Okay. We need to work and we need to take a portion of their salary. So, the last 3 UAW presidents are in jail because they negotiate. They say, we need you to do this. We need to give them a raise. Then they take the union dues and they spend the money on themselves. And that's why they're in jail. And, now people are looking into Sean Fain and they're saying, hey, why did you ask this guy to give your wife a job or your sister-in-law or something, and then he didn't do it and you fired him? So it's a racket, really. And the Volkswagen plant in Tennessee did vote to unionize. They're about $5 an hour under the rate that the big three in Detroit agreed to. So you're probably going to see a union contract with Volkswagen in Tennessee in Chattanooga that broadly follows the structure of the deal they struck with the big three earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. I'm going to go to Jimmy in a second. It's a really good point that these unions. That's one thing that really surprised me with the negotiations that happened in the last 12 months or so. Ford's CEO went on TV and said, "We're going to go bankrupt. If we accept the demands of the union, that will lead to bankruptcy." Boeing is going through an incredible number of issues, and the union is, I believe, they're striking. In fact, they're threatening a strike. VW is having lots of issues around the world, losing market share, unable to ramp EVs profitably, having software issues, having to partner with Rivian, another company that is on the downtrend here. And unions are still threatening, they're demanding 20, 30, 40% increases. They're demanding improvements to their healthcare plans, which are already really good. And that's one thing that's really surprised me in the last 12 months or so. Amazing. Jimmy.
I was gonna say the day is long where we're gonna see when Optimus comes out, these unions are gonna strike and companies are gonna say, you know what? We're done. We've replaced you. You're all replaced. Thanks for striking, increasing our prices, doing all this. Now your jobs are lost because we have a cheaper way of doing this. I think it's going to happen in the next 5 to 6 years. That's just my opinion.
Good points. And if you look at the stock prices of the other automakers, so usually Tesla stock, goes up and down. It had a positive correlation with some of these other automakers. But today, if you look at Ford, GM, Rivian, all down 5% or so. Volkswagen also down, and other stocks are also down. Yet Tesla is doing well. Tesla stock is up in the green today after a big run up in the last week or so, 10%. In the last month, up 20%. In the last 6 months, up 48%. Very near the 1-year high and the all-time high of more than $400 per share. We have a long way to go to get to that. Omar says he cannot believe that this stock is trading below $300 per share. Omar, do you still believe that?
Yes. And I think awareness of what's going on is going to increase in 1010. I mean, the stock is headed for all-time highs. And really what you've seen is margin contraction, right? So the margins of the company and the earnings of the company are at a reduced level to maximize volume in order to avoid reducing production as much. They have incentivized their vehicles heavily, sales incentives to compete. Part of that is just the market environment. So the market's expectations, you hear people say things like, oh, the PE is this, but you're really looking at the earnings at a level that are reduced compared to what you've typically seen in the past and what I think you could see in the future. So if you see, maybe vehicles head to 20, 25% north of that just because of improving conditions in the auto market, well, then you have to revise earnings expectations up substantially. If they, as they say they're planning to do, can get volume closer to 3 million units, well, then you're going to see substantial earnings growth. So I think essentially earnings expectations for the core vehicle business may be too low. And then on top of that, you're really seeing FSD and the international launch of FSD potentially create a recurring revenue stream that I think has the potential long term to actually be greater than the vehicle business. So all of this is adding up to, at some point, I believe we're going to go from margin contraction, which, by the way, may continue into this quarter, into margin expansion. So when it's a margin expansion story, that's a lot more fun to invest in than a margin contraction story. But this isn't a story of perpetual contraction and eventual decline, as some narratives would have. Oh, okay, the Chinese are going to mop the floor with them, whatever, which didn't really happen. This is really a story of a challenging economic environment, along with a new product transition, a new vehicle unveils like the Cybertruck. But looking forward, these are still very desirable vehicles. They have the ability to, do things like the Drive Anywhere package, where they're able to significantly increase the ASP. I do think that in 2025, there's a good chance we could see gross margins on the automotive business start to head in the other direction.
Okay, very good. Very good. And this channel, with your help, is going to achieve positive contribution margin once we get to several hundred likes, probably about 1,000 likes per episode. Right now, we crossed 200 live, which is great because there's going to be other people who would like the video as they listen to the recording. So hopefully we'll get to 300. So we're 1/3 of the way to get the positive contribution margin. And we're tracking it really, really well. Once the subscriber count goes to several thousand, probably about 10,000, the visibility of the channel will improve as well. So that should be a major milestone as well. Okay, things are looking good. All right. We have about 220 likes. So that would be 20 minutes over. We crossed that level. Unless we get a surge in likes again, we're about to wrap it up. Let's get a question from Spiros. Spiros?
Sorry for that. Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce on what Omar has been saying, about Tesla and the value that brings, right? Because I live in Europe. We know that all of the cars, well, most of the cars had adaptive headlights. They got enabled for free. If I go now to a BMW or Mercedes, I have to pay 8,000 or 10,000 euros just to get that as an extra feature, right? And Tesla, we already forgot about that, but they did give it to us for free. They could have said subscription basis or pay something extra. But this is how Tesla is, and it's another important thing. And I just checked on the website. They don't even advertise that, right? If you go to a BMW site, they will say extra pay for the adaptive headlights. Tesla doesn't even mention that they come as with adaptive headlights as standard.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla is the only one that's able to charge for software upgrades because, FSD is a great value. It has hundreds of thousands of users of it now, and it's going to get to 1 million soon. And I think I agree with every speaker. I want to highlight how universal the conclusion that nag-free FSD is a big deal has been, from Omar to AI Driver to Dirty Tesla and anyone else. About Tesla said the same today. Anybody else, JC has said it many times. Anyone who's used 12.5, which is about 1/3 of the North America fleet today, has said this is a big deal. So maybe that's part of the reason why analysts are revising their price targets higher. We've heard Goldman Sachs analysts today recommending call options into the 10/10 event. Analysts are expecting, Omar has mentioned record Q3 deliveries, possibly a record quarter of deliveries. James Catt is very bullish about deliveries. I'm watching for an update by Troy as well. It's going to be a great deliveries quarter, however you look at it. On the other hand, you have Cybertruck production ramping, hopefully achieving positive gross margin in Q4, continue to grow and optimizing production of the 4680s throughout 2025. So things are starting to look really good for Tesla stock. And on the macro front, inflation is coming down rapidly. Interest rates are also coming down, which is really good. Unemployment rate, I think, might be stable in September. Things are it doesn't look like things are getting worse right now. But the Fed funds rate is still restrictive territory, so we'll see how that translates into the coming months and quarters. And so we have a bit of a pocket here of some positive environment for stocks. So I hope that it translates well into Tesla stock and into your holdings. Thank you very much, everybody, for incredible call to action for people to like this video, which achieved record number of likes. Tesla Live is growing with your help. Thank you, and I will chat with you tomorrow. Take care.